Hi, it's a beautiful sunny day, and I really love the chat that we're going to have today. Actually, it's everything that I think is life, what life is about, and it's really what we're doing with these chats is layering our own experiences, journey, situations, life passing us by, and just sharing it. And but in order to do that and layer, this concept today is, I think, vital as a foundation for everything and where we're moving forward to.
Yeah, and a layering in its the concept is a layering in its own right as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the concept, the topic is what is the difference between intuition and instinct? We're going to start with instinct.
Okay.
So, from my own perspective, and like I said, journey and experience, instinct is definitely linked to feelings, and it's not in the fact that it's not a feeling; it's an actual behaviour, and there is a difference. Okay, so instinct is not a feeling; it's a drive towards a particular behaviour. Maybe it stems from a feeling, a thought, an emotion, but it's a drive that you want to get towards something. So it's your behaviour to get there, okay, from that instinct that you've had. And I think it's actually served because of ego. So you have something that we call it a gut instinct, and you think, right, I'm going to go and get it. That's the gut instinct is telling me, to have this behaviour, to drive towards it. Don't care who's in my way, what's in my way. I'm just going to go. And you do everything because you have that instinct. You just want to do it. On the flip side of that, when you have instinct, you often don't act on it. You have that gut instinct, and as human beings, we sort of don't do it because there's a fear involved. I can't say that, even though I've got this knowing, this thought, but I can't do that because somebody will judge me or I'm going to sound silly. I can't say that out loud. I can't do that because it's not right. So with instinct, there is this fear and judgment involved.
Right.
So you're talking about forces. It's you can either push yourself through this because you want to get to that end goal, that behaviour to get there, or there's a resistance and you don't ever see it through.
Right.
So lots of societal factors can come into play with instinct as well. But it's on the surface and the basis of ego.
Okay. So there's a knowing involved in instinct?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's why I was confused.
Okay. No, I think it's all behaviour driven. I think within this chat I used the word knowing just now for instinct, but it's not a knowing. It's just this sort of drive that you have, this force that is telling you to go or not to go.
So could it be that when we think there is a knowing involved with instinct, it is at that point we're mistaking instinct, what is instinct, for what we think is more intuitive and knowing, but actually it's basic instinct. But we convince ourselves. I just said basic instinct. That's something completely different. But it is instinct, and yet with the idea of knowing on top of that, we can mistake it as intuition.
Yeah,
and yet it is a reaction. It is a drive that is something different.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so hard to unpick the difference between instinct and intuition, and we still have many discussions and chats between amongst ourselves.
So it's exactly as you said.
Understand it.
Exactly as you said at the beginning. Then it is about feeling, and actually it's sometimes it's the mistaken feeling on top of instinct, but actually there isn't a feeling as such in terms of a knowing feeling. It's more of a sensation which is involved in a drive for something.
Yes, a behavioural drive.
Drive.
And so then if we look into intuition, I believe, doesn't have any mental construct at all. Whereas on instinct, you can sort of put some sort of logic to it and talk yourself into it or not.
Yeah.
From that gut instinct.
Whether the logic is correct or not doesn't really matter, but
Exactly.
you apply the logic to it.
Yeah, so intuition is definitely not that for me. It's not a mental construct. It absolutely it's a leap into the heart.
Okay.
And this is where it then relates something that we did the other day, that the heart does have neurons. It's that
Yes.
deeper sensation, that you do just know. That's the knowing. And the knowing for me is intuition. And because there's no thought to it, there's no observation, there's no reason, it's just there. And it's an absolute leap into the faith. It's an energy, it's not a force, it's an energy. And it's knowing that something's right or wrong, but you don't force yourself into it. It naturally guides you, it naturally flows. And whether something is not right, it will take you as far as you need to go. And then suddenly something will just capture your attention or grab your attention. It will sway you where you're meant to be going. It's beautifully laid down, I think, intuition.
Okay. So we just lay back and let it happen?
It's got to be that you then...
You have to put something into it.
Yeah. There's got to be... it's got to be a want, actually, to understand yourself on that deeper level.
Okay.
So it's got...
or be open to it.
Open to it. And the first, really, trying to backtrack where my marker for understanding the difference between instinct and intuition does come back to a family situation, actually, and my amazing mum. I just had this feeling one day that I just need to ring my mum because there's been some news, something's not right. And it was more than instinct, it was just that knowing, that energetic force, that feeling, that sensation. I'm going to ring my mum. And when I did ring my mum, the whole situation that I thought had happened. So you're talking about two bodies in two different places. Something's playing out for my mum in a situation. I'm in a different country. Something's playing out for me, but I'm linking into that. I'm connecting to an energy where space and time is of no obstacle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So some sort of energy has flowed between these two energetic moments, these two people. And for me, once you have that on just an interconnectivity between people, well, I sat here one day and I thought, well, surely then, if everything's energy, everything's matter and energy, then can't we put intuition to a wider scale and then start to understand messages, wisdom of the world? And that to me is where I'm at with my discovery of life, who I am, what the difference is between instinct, intuition. And it's this concept that we've come up with a lot called sensing beyond sensing.
Yeah.
And we will layer into that. And this is just the foundation of, to help you understand your own beliefs about intuition and instinct. But it's not just seeing, and it's not just seeing, the world and all the nature and all its components. It's hearing it. And that's the next step of intuition for me. The intuition you can hear and connect to something much, much greater than just a body being there and a body being there. It's somewhere.
It may be whispers.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be quite strong, but it may be whispers to begin with. But as we sit in it more, recognise it more, and there's many things we can actually do to be able to tune or to receive it better, to understand it better, to interpret the sensations better. And we can do that in a talk on the human antenna, so we can look at actually how that works. But as we, that whisper can actually become something that is just something we sit in as daily life. So actually intuition rather than something that comes and goes, it's something that eventually is just, it always is.
Yeah, yes. And by doing that, the natural beauty of the world and my place in it becomes easier.
Yeah.
Actually, I can handle situations better. I don't even handle them, they just are. It is just what it is, and I sit within the emotion and the feeling and the knowing that, okay, this has happened for a reason. That old age phrase that we all use, but we don't often then be able to connect, we don't connect the dots until we're too far, we're further on, then we go, that's why.
Yeah.
But almost you then, because of intuition, you sort of know. You just...
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing, is sticking with the knowing. I think we have a natural drive to understand why. And I think sometimes that understanding why can actually really get in the way and take us down sometimes the wrong paths. And we get so far down that actually then we don't realise there is any other ways. So, we try to explain it with maybe quantum entanglement, or we try to explain it with resonance, or we try to explain it with ripples will only meet the same frequencies of the same bodies and things like that. It doesn't really matter, and this is the point. The why is interesting, but it's being in the experience of what it is, and working with that, and being with that is much, much more important than having any understanding of why it is actually happening. Because actually that information comes, and it comes maybe in a more unexpected way, but you need to be ready to receive that information when it comes.
Yeah.
In fact, I wrote a little Instagram piece on that. I don't know. It's very, very short, but I'll quote it rather than try and remember exactly the words I wrote.
Yeah.
But I said, the mind feels and the heart has knowing about that feeling. Logic to the feeling in the brain is how ego is created. Logic comes from the heart, and logic is not what logic has become. So I'm not going to explain any of that. I'm just going to leave that as part of what we've been talking about. But the difference, or the start of the difference between instinct and intuition.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.